Welcome to the Afife Rice Irrigation Project, situated in the Volta region of Ghana. Over 500 farmers grow rice here, thanks to an irrigation program set up by the government of Ghana under its Irrigation Development Authority. Our guide will be Mr. George Yegbe, one of the farmers who owns at least 2 acres of rice farm on these plains. Built with support from the Chinese government, this dam, situated upslope from the rice farms, is the source of irrigation for the farms down in the plains. From here, hundreds of kilometers of canals have been built into the farms below, bringing much needed water from the dam into rice farms. Without the dam, rice cultivation, entirely reliant on rainfall, would be totally impossible, denying hundreds of farmers income from one of their main agricultural activities in this region.
This is our main source of income, and even though there are challenges in the area of input, we still manage to cultivate and we get something from it.
Rice farmers on these plains must be among some of the luckiest in Ghana. They are even able to obtain financial and other support from one of Ghana's Rural Development Bank ahead of each planting season.
Agricultural Development Bank
We receive credit from the Agricultural Development Bank at various stages of the cultivation. For instance, when we are plowing, they give us assistance. They also provide help when we are about to apply fertilizers, as well as when we are harvesting.
in advance.
And the bank makes things easy for farmers who do not have to refund loans in cash.
The arrangement is that when we finish harvesting, we use a portion of the rice to repay the credit that we get.
The farmers must spend long hours watching over the fields and defending every grain of rice from the birds in order to get a reasonable harvest.
Last season, I harvested 25 bags of rice and I used 8 bags to pay for the loan I took. I was left with 17 bags. From these, I had to pay for the labor that I used during the cultivation. I also had to pay the people I employed to sack the birds on the farm. So after doing that and paying other little monies I had used, I was left with 8 bags.
The government owns the land on which these farmers plow. Mr. Yegbe owns 2 acres of land, and as with other farmers, the lease arrangement with the government allows him and every other farmer to pay in kind rather than in hard-to-find cash.
After harvesting, you need 4 buckets and 5 bowls to pay for the use of 1 acre of land.
It is busy all year round on the rice farms, but things get particularly hectic once the harvest sets in. That is also when the farmers spend considerable amounts of money on transportation and in the hiring of labor, notably to move the rice to what they call drying floors. After spending the entire year praying for adequate rains in order to grow rice, it is at this period of the year that farmers using this open-air drying floors pray for sunshine. For many weeks, once the rice is on these floors, most farmers would have no other choice than to spend all their nights here, out in the open, lying on these floors alongside their rice in order to keep thieves away and await buyers from the cities. Prices are determined every year.
The management of the farm sits with buyers at every season to determine the price at which the rice will be sold. For this season, this has not been done yet, so I do not yet know at what price the rice will be sold this year. The truth is really that the price at which we sell the rice is not a fair one. The cost of fertilizers is very high. In the past, we paid very little for fertilizer. But right now, we pay about 300,000 cedis for 1 bag of fertilizer, and we use more than 1 bag on 1 acre of farm.
Mr. Yegbe recalls that there was a time, a long time ago, he says, when the rains were adequate and the dam provided enough water for all the 500 plus farmers on these plains to grow rice twice a year. Despite irrigation, recurrent drought and or poor rainfall now means only 1/2 of the farmers can grow rice twice a year, given the shortage of water in the dam.
About 7 years ago, we had severe shortage of water in the dam. It was decided then that we would cultivate only once a year. Recently, the management decided that Section 1 to 5 could farm during both the minor and major seasons, meaning that would be cultivated twice a year. This year, Section 1 to 5 will cultivate in the minor as well as the major season. It will be our turn next year. While they plow here, we would go into private okra cultivation in the off-season.
Farmers like Mr. Yegbe rely almost entirely on revenue from rice, about $25 per bag of 100 kilograms, to educate their children.
I have 4 children. One of them is in secondary school. The other 3 have completed elementary school and some have completed the apprenticeship. It is the rice farm that has made all of this possible. I also use the money from the rice farms to cultivate other farms of my own. For instance, I do a bit of sugarcane farming and others.
Mr. Yegbe would like to expand his rice farm, but recognizes that this would be near impossible unless he went into mechanized agriculture. He believes the government can help by funding the acquisition of mini tractors.
My greatest challenge is that I cannot raise enough money to buy the mini tractor that I so much desire and which would enable me to do a lot more on my farm. In my opinion, the government could help us by supplying these tractors to us on credit and making an arrangement for us to pay for them in installments.
It must break Mr. Yegbe's heart and the heart of other Ghanaian rice farmers to hear what shopkeepers and Ghanaian buyers think of locally grown rice.
One thing you need to know is if you buy the locally produced rice, you would have to mix it with the AA type for it to be acceptable. If you cook it alone, it is not as tasty as if you mix it with AA. And the people who cook wache, local rice and beans, like it, but would mix it with the AA type. The reason I don't sell the local rice is nobody buys it. I have some in stock right now. I have had it for the last 6 months, but no one even wants to buy. People would not patronize the local rice as much as the foreign rice which they prefer.
For Mr. Yegbe and thousands of Ghanaian rice farmers, expanding rice farms and earning more from agriculture is in many ways dependent on Ghanaians choosing local over foreign rice.